Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about the Paraguayan model of 1927 Mauser rifle, a pretty uncommon Mauser rifle that probably didn't actually go to Paraguay. Now before we talk about the model of 1927, we're going to go back in history a little bit, talk about Paraguay. Paraguay is a landlocked country in the middle of South America. They got their independence from Spain in the early 1800s, like a lot of countries in South America. And they're a relatively small and not very densely populated country. Probably one of the biggest events in their early history is the War of the Triple Alliance, where Paraguay fought against 3 of its neighbors and did surprisingly well for a country of their size, but could not sustain a war of attrition, and so they eventually lost after a few years. Paraguay actually lost between like 60 and 90% of their total population. Like 60 to 90% of their total population they lost during this war, or after this war. And they lost, of course, a bunch of land. Argentina and Brazil each got a pretty good chunk of Paraguay. I mean, they're very devastated after this war. I think their population was only like 100 or 200,000 people or something like that after the war. And so now you kind of fast forward. Paraguay, despite this loss, they kind of maintained kind of like a militaristic spirit in their country still. They had a reputation of being, very fierce fighters, good morale and everything like that in their military despite the loss. Now in the 1890s, Paraguay, their first Mauser rifle was pretty much a Chilean 1895 copy. Being a small country, they don't have a lot of purchasing power, and so they kind of purchased Chilean 1895s as their first Mauser rifle. After that, they adopted a 1907, which they purchased from Germany, which was just pretty much a straight-up Gewehr 98 clone. This is a Gewehr 98, but the Paraguay 1907 looks just like this, but it's in 765 by 53. Like I said, they're a small country. They have these 2 Mauser rifles. Now we're going to kind of fast forward to the 1920s to Argentina, because Argentina was trying to develop close relations with Spain. They were trying to get closer with Spain for whatever reason. And Argentina, they had the 1909 Mauser rifle. That's what this is here, an Argentine 1909. A lot of these were made, this one's made by DWM. So a lot of these were German-made 1909s that Argentine got. Now, Argentina was looking at Spain to make 1909s. And so the Argentinians gave Spain the drawings for the 1909 rifle in the 1920s. And using those drawings, Spain, their plant in Oviedo, came up with the model 1927. So essentially, the 1927 is a sort of clone of the Argentine 1909, and I'll show you some close-ups. They're very, very similar. So the model of 1927, it was made at the Spanish Fábrica Nacional de Armas in Oviedo. And it's somewhat of a budget rifle, being that Spain doesn't have to put in any R&D, funds into developing this rifle. They got the drawings, they were just able to make it. Now that was good for Paraguay, not having a really large budget. Now I read in the Argentine Mauser book that Argentina was actually the one that purchased the arms for Paraguay. So I guess after the War of the Triple Alliance, Argentina and Paraguay, they kind of had better relations. So I also read online that Paraguay bought the guns directly from Spain. Not exactly sure which one of those is true. I lean more towards the book being true. Now in 1932, the Chaco War broke out between Paraguay and Bolivia. It was fought over the Chaco Boreal region, this land in between Bolivia and Paraguay. Now Paraguay considered that part of its historical territory, and they were willing to defend it, even though Bolivia was a much larger country. It seems like the natives in that area sided with Paraguay, and they gave their expertise. They lended a hand to the Paraguayans in defending it. During this conflict, which lasted a few years, these 1927s were put to use because the Paraguayans bought these in 1927 up until they purchased them up until 1932 before they canceled the contract. Now, what you'll read online is that supposedly the Paraguayans had a lot of these blow up. Now, they called these apparently something along the lines of Paraguayan killers because these rifles were blowing up and killing Paraguayan soldiers. And so it's written in the Chaco War book that apparently the Paraguayan soldiers were ditching these 1927s pretty much as soon as they got their hands on a captured Bolivian rifle or Mauser. So that's something that was going on at the time, was catastrophic failures in these 1927s. Now, I also read that in 1931, Paraguay actually did testing on their 1927s to see if they were safe, because I guess before the war there were already some reports. And apparently it was the rifle's catastrophic failures was blamed on a bad batch of ammo from Belgium. So Belgians, they used 7.65 by 53, the same as the Paraguayans. So the Paraguayans purchased ammo from them. So I read that it was bad ammo. Some people say it was improper heat treating on the rifles and that rifles were blowing up. So it feels almost like an ammo issue more than a rifle issue. So it's funny reading both sides of it online. It kind of reminds me of the low serial number 1903s blowing up. So anyway, so Paraguay, they kind of had this issue. In 1932, they canceled the contract. They ordered 10,000 of these 1927s. At least they actually purchased and received 10,000 of these. So the thing with Paraguayan military surplus is that there really is none. Paraguay, as far as I know, it seems everything online that they've retained all of their Mausers. They've never exported any of their Mausers. So the few Paraguayan rifles that are in the United States today, no one really knows exactly how they came about. Some of the 1907s that are in the US were probably guns that were made in Germany and kind of ended up getting pulled into World War I and somehow went back to the United States that way. Now these 1927s, like the one I just held, apparently all of the ones in the United States are of the B block serial prefix, which this one is. It's a B and 4 numbers. The 4 numbers kind of indicates a 10,000 rifle batch in each block. So what I read was that it's the A block, the A 10,000 block of rifles that went to Paraguay, and the B block of rifles were supposedly made and never purchased, and they stayed in Spain. And so this rifle is one of those B block rifles that the Spanish made. They put the Paraguayan crest and everything on, and the Paraguayans just never ordered them. So that's why this gun never went to Paraguay. Now let's get in and do some close-ups, and I'll show you the similarities and differences between the 1927 and the 1909. Here you go. So zoomed out pretty far here just to kind of show you overall the similarities with the Argentinian 1909 and the Paraguayan 1927. These guns, except for like a couple small differences like the color of the stocks and whatever, they look almost identical. From the barrel band attachments, the stock length, the rear sights, the sort of quick detach magazine that's sort of inlet into the trigger guard here. These are pretty much almost the exact same rifles. Of course, this one's made by DWM. This one's Spanish made. Now, yeah, the Argentinians added this little adapter here for bayonets later on. But kind of, without looking at these kind of front end features, the front sight itself is like exactly the same. So the Paraguayan 1927 really is just a 1909 clone. Here's a better up close of the rifles. You can see the rear sight styles are exactly the same. They start out from 300 to 2,000 meters on both the rifles. Both countries had 7.65 by 53 as their caliber. So each one of them has this little sort of ejector box extension that goes over the stripper clip guide for these early Mauser style clips on both of them. So these rifles are very, very similar to one another. So here's the main markings on the receiver ring: Mauser Modelo Paraguayo 1927, and then here Fábrica de Armas de Oviedo, España. So there's the model and then the maker. So here's that beautiful Paraguayan crest. Like so many South American Mausers, they just have these beautiful crests on them. This would probably look really nice if this was kind of highlighted in the white to kind of stand out against this bluing. I'm guessing the Spanish re-blued these, refinished them. These might have originally been in the white, I'm not sure, but that's just a really beautiful example of a crest there. So on this side is the serial number, so it's a B and then a 4000. This one is an all matching example, and you could see the matching serial number here on the wood stock. A lot of Latin American Mausers, they tend to kind of have the serial numbers very conveniently placed on the stock right below the serial number. Like German Mausers or anything, they don't make it that easy for us collectors. But this one is matching here on the receiver, the stock, on the bolt handle here, which appears to be in the white. And then underneath on the trigger guard is the matching serial number. This might be a good time also just to point out this kind of Argentine style of trigger guard here, where there is a button that you can press. You can usually use a bullet, and you can just kind of press this. You can kind of do it with your fingers. And this is a hinged Mauser plate so that you can open this up. This example is pretty gummed up with cosmoline. This example also features this A marking on the stock. Some of these Spanish rifles will have like an MP8 or another sort of marking on the stocks here. But this is an A marking, which is, there's other examples of 1927s that also have this A marking. This seems indicative of a rebuild mark, so this could be at whatever location rebuilt these, that rechambered these to 8mm, which this example has been rechambered to 8mm, that this is the facility that did it. This could be a marking saying that it was refinished. Not exactly sure which one of those, but that is one of the things that's sort of indicative on these Spanish rebuild Mausers. And there's a rear sight. It's pretty standard, 300 to 2,000 meter rear sight. And then just to sort of show, these are 8mm Mauser dummies. So when this rifle was in Spanish service, it will just take the standard 8mm Mauser stripper clips. It'll feed the 8mm into the magazine. Of course, there's some sort of hang up. It will take standard 8mm in the magazine, and then it will chamber. Kind of made it awkward there, but it's a lot smoother than I made that look. It's a little gummy because of the cosmoline. But yep, chambered in 8mm. It appears that these guns, being refurbished for 8mm, Spain used 8mm Mauser. It's interesting that all the markings are intact from Paraguay, so apparently the Spanish didn't care about any of the markings on it, or, putting a Spanish crest on it or something like that. Apparently they didn't really care. So yeah, this rifle stayed in Spain, probably fought through the Spanish-American War, and I'm guessing was imported into the United States at some time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe before import mark requirements, because it does not appear to have any import stamps on this example. So, however, this rifle ended up back in the United States. It ended up back here for us to collect. Now, overall, the gun's so rare that you can't really consider it a shooter. You really wouldn't want to shoot something like this, probably, especially with the reports of the guns, blowing up and bad heat treating, whatever. Now, going through the Spanish-American or the Spanish Civil War, this is probably, the ones that made it through were probably fine. So you wouldn't want to shoot something like this, but I guess it's probably fine if you did or if you had to. Now, being an 8mm, it's a little. I prefer, of course, 8mm to 7.65. It's easier to find and stuff like that. A little more of a stout recoil to it, but I mean, overall, it's a 1909 clone, so it's a big, long rifle, you know, with a straight bolt handle. Cycle's fine. It's just an okay Mauser. That's pretty much it. It's just nothing really stands out about it as being, you know, exceptional or anything like that. It's just a pretty good standard, you know, Mauser 98 long rifle. As far as collectability now, of course, it's an uncommon gun, so this is going to be kind of one that South American collectors maybe want to collect. I guess if you collect Spanish, you know, Mausers, you'd want to collect this as well, just to kind of have it in your Spanish collection. You know, a lot of people kind of consider guns that were used in the Spanish Civil War as being like, I don't know, not as good. Like if you have like a Mosin, say, and it's got Spanish Civil War markings on it, I think like Mosin collectors don't like it as much as if it was like a pure Mosin or whatever. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Like I think that would be a really cool niche area to collect, like Spanish Civil War Mausers and, you know, other rifles that made its way into the conflict. So I don't think the market's there right now with them, because you can usually get a bargain on Spanish Civil War guns. So yeah, it kind of fits into there somewhere, maybe South American history a little bit, but it didn't go there, so it's a little bit more maybe Spanish military. Thank you for watching. Not sure what I'm gonna do a video on next. Maybe a pistol next, since I've done a couple of rifle videos. Not sure, but thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you next time.